Eternal Strands is a quasi-open world third-person action RPG that feels somewhere between Shadow of the Colossus, Breath of the Wild, and Wayfinder, which is not a sentence I thought I'd say, but here we are, and frankly, I'm stoked about it. We've cleared out the entirety of the demo on stream, and I wanted to get y'all some rapid-fire impressions out quickly so you can decide if trying the demo and subsequently the main game are worth the download time, drive space, and money. So let's get to it. At its core, you're looking at the standard action RPG experience of get quest, explore and fight your way to the quest location, do the thing, which varies from explore the point, collect the thing, or fight the boss thing. Then turn in the quest, upgrade your camp and your gear, repeat. Perhaps most importantly here, the upgrade and crafting system in the game might be the most noteworthy facet of the demo, at least, and perhaps the main game entirely, that we've seen so far. Both are structured in such a way that really encourages exploration and actually using the materials you find in the world. Shocker, I know. Instead of hoarding them for building that one super OP piece of armor or weapon that you don't even know exists yet, but you're always holding on to, and you wind up finishing a game with way too many consumables. What? Yeah, I know. All of the items you craft can be then disassembled to refund you the materials that you used, and the specific combination of the individual materials, whether that's woven items, forged items, etc., both change the unique balance of stats and its actual appearance, which is cool, but also makes my inner fashion souls cranky. We'll figure it out. If the rest of the systems in the game continue this trend, solid out of 10, no notes. In terms of performance and overall options in the game, I tested this on 3 PCs. My main one with a 4090 and a 7800X3D, my previous desktop with a 3080, and my laptop with a 2000 series adjacent AMD card. All 3 kept frame rates well over 60, with some variation of settings with how high things like shadows, particle density, global illumination are turned up to all reach that desired frame rate. On the main rig, it was pegged at 144 whole time, no variation, no stutter on loading assets, nothing. It's great. I have 0 complaints here, which again is a welcome departure from recent titles that I've covered on the channel and played on my own time lately. While playing, it did seem to load my GPU much more heavily than my CPU, and that was consistent across all 3 machines, so include that into your own calculus about how well it could run for you. But again, the demo's out, it's free, try it. As for in-game options, there are a solid amount of tweakable settings in the game for everything from rather granular graphical options, respectable accessibility settings, and tweaks for gameplay and control. I mean, it's great. Thank you for letting me actually turn things off or adjust them to my preference without needing to use a third-party tool. Still, it might be worth using a controller with paddles and programmable buttons, but that's really down to your own personal preference and muscle memory. But both of the default schemes on controller work well. I didn't try it on mouse and keyboard, but that's because I think third-person action games play better with a controller. Yes, I know there's some of you who swear by playing things like Elden Ring on mouse and key, but stop it. Get some help. As for combat, melee combat is simple while retaining a good degree of depth. Each melee weapon has set combos and unique aspects that differentiate it from others, and they all feel distinct. You need to swing quickly or want to get your Gwyn parries on, sword and shield, all the way. On the other hand, are you a strength build bonky boy for life? Well, two-hander has some triple bonks with an AoE. Get smacking. As for magic and weaving, again, it's really simple to pick up while retaining a really startling opportunity for depth and creativity at your level of preference or investment. In my playthrough, I only got access to the 2 gravity spells and their upgrades, an ice wall, and later on a fire breath ability. But each has distinct flavor, use cases, and let's say, creative application of game mechanics, like tying the ark's feet together so it trips over its own shoelaces, or applying an ice muzzle to the fire drake so he can't incinerate your everything. Be creative. It's fun. Running through visuals and sound design really quick, there's a second part of the phrase, "the customer is always right," that many people either leave out or don't know about. The full quote goes, "The customer is always right in matters of taste." To that end, the art style on parade here won't be everyone's cup of tea. And that's fine. What it does have is a strong sense of art direction, style, and character that retains gameplay and readability as a priority. And stylized or not, I appreciate that. Frankly, I may still be a little bit traumatized from the decade of sepia filters and chest-high walls, so yeah, I'll happily take a cohesive, colorful world. As for sound, it's solid. Things feel meaty where appropriate, ambiance is good, and I never felt like the soundscape distracted me from moment-to-moment decision-making. Music is on point. It's good. No notes. That said, there are a few quirks here. First and foremost in my mind is the recovery frames. So, like after you swing your weapon, the time it takes from the swing to being able to input another action, that delay can be a bit grating, particularly on the two-hander. For instance, it takes you longer to recover from a swing than to charge an attack. How much that annoys you is going to depend on you and your preference. If we're talking about Monster Hunter, like Charge Blade for life, I cannot for the life of me make greatsword or hammer work with how slow they are. That's a me thing. You might not notice or be bothered by it. The difficulty slider scales your overall health as the primary function of difficulty here. Both health and how much healing items recover when you use them. This has pros and cons, I think. Yeah, on one hand, this could set up some negative feedback loops with one-shots and resource starvation. But on the other, I mean, it's far more appealing than like making enemies stupidly spongy, or the more recent disturbing trend in games lately of changing dodge and parry timings according to what difficulty setting you're on. Demo felt balanced for normal. Your mileage may vary. We'll see if that continues throughout the main game. And lastly, when it comes to quirks, I don't really get this one, but it's a common enough complaint that I feel like it needs addressing. There isn't a custom character creator. You'll play through as a pre-made and pre-written protagonist with dialogue options that you can choose from. Apparently, that's a deal breaker for some. Okay, that seems weird, since if that's the case, you're missing out on so many excellent experiences. I mean, obvious inclusions here would be things like the newer God of War games, Horizon, both Red Dead Redemptions, and The Witcher 3. I mean, come on now. Just rethink your opinion if that's the case, yeah? So wrapping things up here, there's really a couple questions. And that's value for time and overall subgenre and what it plays like. So when we're talking about value for time, on Steam, it's going to release for $40. It's also a day one title on Game Pass. Now, when I think about that, my questions are going to be like, okay, what's the replayability? How many playthroughs am I going to get? How long is each playthrough going to be? And that's going to depend on how completionist I wind up being versus, just mainlining the quest. I feel like a 25 to 30 hour experience with a cohesive identity and solid systems that reward creativity and exploration and like independent thought. Yeah, that's a clear buy for me. Now, as to the other question of Steam versus Game Pass. If you already have the Game Pass version and you haven't played the demo, just try it on day one with Game Pass. I mean, if you're already paying for the subscription, you're not out any extra money. If it runs great, cool. You play it for like 5 hours, find out it's not for you. All right, cool. You've basically spent those 5 hours and the download space to be like, not for me. Whatever. Move on to the next thing. My concern here is the continued recent trend of the disparity between the Game Pass version of a game and the Steam version of a game. This becomes important when you take into account that progress on the demo can carry over into the main game. So let's say you playing the Steam demo, but then you decide you're going to play it on Game Pass, well, I mean, you're out the time that you've spent in the demo. Want to commit to the Game Pass version, just know that you're, instead of paying with dollars, you're paying potentially with time and frustration. Wrapping it all up together here, though, is it likely to be a forever game? No. Just no. It's a story-driven, single-player RPG. Is it likely to be a solid experience and a reasonable value for money that you enjoy your time with? Yeah, I think so. Depending on when you see this, the demo might still be out. We've got several more days until release. Give it a shot. Worst thing that happens is you're out a few hours. I've been Bald Squid. I'll see you next time.